He was awarded India's Padma Shree in 2020 and has been honoured with honorary doctorates from London Business School.
By running around and changing things and buying and selling stocks. We all plan to a certain extent, but not, at least I didn't have 10-year or 20-year vision. I said, maybe I should go to the West. West has done a lot of things. That led to the creation of BITS.
Hi everyone, welcome to BITSA Pulse, a podcast series where we talk to Bitsian startup founders, top executives and research scholars who have carved a space for themselves in their field. Through these podcasts, we are aiming to capture the pulse of these Bitsians and share inspiring stories. I'm Hanusha from 2014 batch.
And I'm Nivya from 2014 batch.
And we are thrilled to announce on behalf of BITSA Pulse that we are announcing a start of brand new series called BITS Beacons, a distinguished alumni series. This series shines a spotlight on illustrious alumni who've made their mark in diverse fields. Our goal is to delve deep into their captivating stories, a significant chapter which unfurled at BITS Pilani. Through this series, we aim to encapsulate the essence of these remarkable Bitsians and their unique journeys. Without further ado, I would like Nivya to introduce the first speaker for our series.
Okay, we are honored to kickstart our series with none other than the esteemed Padma Shree recipient, the Gordon Y. Billard Professor of Accounting and Finance at MIT's Sloan School of Management, and incidentally, the first chairman of BITSA, Professor S.P. Kothari. So, Professor Kothari received his BS in Engineering from BITS in 1979, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and a PhD from the University of Iowa. He has senior executive experience in government, academia, and industry with expertise in strategy and policy issues, securities regulation, and corporate governance. Most recently, he was Chief Economist and Director of the Division of Economic and Risk Analysis at the US Securities and Exchange Commission. Previously, Professor Kothari was Deputy Dean of MIT Sloan School of Management, Global Head of Equity Research for Barclays Global Investors, and Director of Bombay Stock Exchange. Currently, he is a Director of VLAN Studios and Ebix Cash. He was awarded India's Padma Shree in 2020 and has been honoured with honorary doctorates from London Business School, University of Cyprus and University of Technology, Sydney, and the American Accounting Association's Distinguished Contributions to the Accounting Literature Award. Professor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nivya and Anusha. Thank you.
Thank you for being the first speaker for our series, Professor, and agreeing to do this podcast.
It's an honor to have you here.
Well, there are many, and I'm delighted that you have chosen me, but I'm humbled by the accomplishments of many others from BITS. It has been a wonderful institution to have my alma mater.
Okay, now I would invite Hanusha to kickstart the podcast.
Yeah. So we'll have the podcast in different segments. Start up with your early life in India.
Okay.
Professor, having raised in Karnataka to diverse cultural backgrounds, parents from Gujarati and Marathi background, it's clear that education has played a pivotal role in your upbringing. So how do you believe this sort of multicultural environment influenced your personal and academic development? And what were your early interests and passions during your formative years?
I really very fondly remember my childhood, and I was blessed with parents who took great interest in education. A lot of friends, Gujaratis, Brahmins, and Kannadigas, and it was a melting pot. And so I grew up in a small town, Gulbarga. But as I said, I was very fortunate in having parents taking an interest in education. And my siblings, I was the youngest. I think I learned selfless love from my siblings. They weren't expecting anything, but they loved me deeply. And I didn't at that time realize, and I probably focused on the kind of pranks that they used to pull on me. But in hindsight, I think they unknowingly or knowingly taught me what the value of selfless love. And so I grew up there, and from Gulbarga, then my first destination was Pilani. I like to say that I went from a small place to a smaller place. So that's what was my journey.
Nice. Yeah. So going ahead into the Pilani stories. So could you share some of your experiences that stand out and memories from BITS on how starting your career in chemical engineering, and then how was the whole experience in BITS Pilani?
BITS Pilani, again, those are very formative years. Those are years when I think we discover ourselves in a way that it's not possible at a younger age or at a later age. And there was a taste of independence that I received. We were all 16-year-olds who went to Pilani and started living alone. Food was actually quite good. And we were in our own way. At that time, there were hardly any other comforts. So spending time, there was no computers, there were no cell phones, nothing. So during that time, it was all personal bond that we established, and we have made lifelong friendships. Education, it was also one of those times that you chose 4 courses, 5 courses, and the number of contact hours was not that much, but the work was quite demanding. There was an element of competitive spirit in me. I didn't want to let down my folks back home. So I worked hard and did quite well. Chemical engineering I come from a business family. My parents and I was influenced by that. They thought that maybe I can start some small scale industry or something, factory. Of course, that never kind of resonated in the end, but that's what propelled me into getting into the chemical engineering. By the end of it, I did well. I was second in my batch, but that really didn't inspire me nearly as much. And I was looking for a job that was outside of engineering. And fortunately, I was selected as management trainee or a rotational officer program with DCM. Paid twice as much as engineers did, so I was quite happy with that. I could have some bragging rights, I suppose. and I moved to Mumbai for my first job.
Do you remember your BITS ID?
Oh yeah, E01118, I think. So 74 E01118.
Yeah.
So that was the ID. Yes, E01 because chemical engineering is 01. So I kind of forgotten, but it came back, I suppose.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. So our batch ID numbers are 2014, the year we started.
Yes.
AB is the code for me manufacturing. PS, it's a procedure practice school, and 506H. H is I'm from Hyderabad campus.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I say that's pretty much complicated now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Additionally, and then you went ahead to pursue your MBA at IIM-A. So, what promoted to this transition to pursue into an MBA? Was this a planned career shift, or did it involve or evolve as a result of your experiences during BITS?
Everything evolved. out of BITS. The reason is, growing up in Gulbarga, the best thing that my dad did was, he said, don't go to local engineering college, go to BITS Pilani. And when I got the admission, I didn't know anything until then. And so my eyes opened, the whole world opened doors to me in a way. And so that was very transformative. And after engineering, as I said, I got the job, but it was in sales, and I was selling industrial chemical, and I did fine there, but I was getting bored. It seemed overly repetitious, and I could do the job in my sleep. And so I was itching to do something else. And at that time, it seemed like a good idea to go and get an MBA from IIM-A. And fortunately, first year I was kept on wait list, and then the second year I persevered and I got in. And so that was another milestone change in my life after a career trajectory. And that's where I got interested in finance and accounting and economics, much more so than previously. And I took several courses in that. And again, there I met a different set of people. I think they were more mature, understandably, because their age was more like 22, 23, 24 at that time. Ahmedabad was a small school, much smaller than BITS Pilani. Pilani was about 2,000 student population. Ahmedabad was only 400. So it's a very different model. There was a little bit chip on our shoulder in some ways, being from Ahmedabad. At the same time, I thought the faculty, just as at Pilani, they were outstanding. At Ahmedabad, they were very good. They were different. It was management. So the group was much more homogeneous, more cohesive in that respect, because the interest at BITS Pilani, it catered to a wider range of academic disciplines, whereas IIM-A was just an MBA program. That's what was 95% of it. That was the bread and butter of IIM-A. Had a good education, and that's when I said, maybe I should go to the West. West has done a lot of things, and it has prospered so much. At that time, certainly compared to India, there was a wide gulf between America and India, or England and India. And at that time, the only way of going to the US was to do a PhD. There weren't any job opportunities or anything at that time. So I said, hey, it's not a bad idea to go and get a PhD. I didn't know what PhD meant. So once again, I'm not the type who tries to discover and understand or do a whole lot of research. I kind of think, well, it must be good. A lot of people go and do that, and someone else pays your way through. It must be good. That kind of simple market-based logic that I applied. And next thing you know, I landed in University of Iowa, middle of August 1982, and then a whole different journey kind of unfolded since then.
Sure, yeah. I think I can speak for every one of us, that BITS was truly magical in creating new experiences and opportunities especially during the formative years. So yeah, given that BITS was founded taking inspiration from MIT, I think it comes full circle for you that you are teaching here right now. But
yeah, I have to pinch myself so many times. That BITS Pilani was Dr. C.R. Mitra was the director, and he had Doctor of Science from MIT, and he had the vision, and MIT had the resources and really a desire to make a difference in the world, and that led to the creation of BITS. So I benefited from that. And then when I went to IIM Ahmedabad, that was the brainchild of Harvard. So, and I have been so fortunate that I'm here at MIT. I also taught at Harvard. And I know a number of students, and I've taught PhD students, but also MBA students over there. So who would have thought that a kid from Gulbarga would get so lucky? And I just count my blessings for how many from my parents, from my family, friends, teachers at various places, and they all have been helpful in sculpting. And sometimes I say that I was just a clump of clay, and they sculpted. So it's so true. I mean, all these things. There is hard work and perseverance that, of course, is necessary and we put in, but grace of God, there's an enormous amount of luck.
Yeah, very good. That's a great way of putting it in. For the next segment, I think maybe I will.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about your move to the US. So after completing your MBA, you went on to pursue your PhD at the University of Iowa. So I think that's a very unique path in terms of, it kind of reflects your passion to delve deeper into the, research and some specialization. So my question is, what prompted you to do a PhD after an MBA?
Right. So, that's a great. I was curious about the West, and academically I was always good, but not one of those who was sort of quintessential academic type. So I didn't know what exactly research meant and how much. We thought at IIM Ahmedabad, case writing, maybe that is what research is. But coming to the US, it completely changed the world here. And what I realized is it's extraordinarily rigorous. But on the other hand, someone else is paying for thinking and writing, and it resonated somehow. And I got enormously interested. What is also true of academia is, at least in the US, age does not matter, ideas matter.
Yeah.
So if you come up with good research ideas, you are at the pinnacle of the profession within a matter of years. And it seemed like the right thing. Being at Iowa, I think it was a great school. They were very nice folks, very friendly, received good education, made some good friends. But I think wanted to prove ourselves at that time, prove myself. So that provided an added incentive, sense of purpose, and worked hard, and then that culminated in receiving an offer from University of Rochester. Now, at that time, it was a powerhouse. It was sort of one of the more coveted jobs. And so receiving that, it was delightful. I mean, I had other offers like Northwestern and Michigan, but there was not much thought given to it. Rochester was sort of the ultimate prize in many ways. And so went there, and another chapter in my life began. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you had a nice experience at Iowa. So I know it's been a long time, but do you remember your topic, your thesis topic by any chance?
Yes. So it's slightly technical, but nonetheless, analysts make forecasts, but forecasts become stale, and the new information that comes about gets reflected in security prices. So my thesis was about improving the accuracy of analyst forecasts using the information in security prices to come up with a more timely earnings forecast. So that was sort of all of these things are somewhat, they are not like solving cancer, but they are a step in the direction. Recently, the Dean of Iowa and the development officer over there, they came to my office and they were talking about it. And so they said, well, how would you describe research and the contributions that you make? And I said that, well, we are all working on a piece of the puzzle. And collectively, the mosaic or the puzzle that gets solved. So it influences practice, it influences thinking, and any one individual piece of research may not seem that way, but collectively it develops a picture that is helpful in solving some mysteries or making some policy decisions.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, so after your PhD at the University of Iowa, you went on to have another similar stint at University of Rochester. So could you share what inspired you to pursue research further? And were there moments when you considered transitioning into a corporate role?
Right. Believe it or not, academia prepares you for a career in academia. So at that time, I could have gone into consulting, I suppose, some of that, but establishing in academia seemed like a sensible thing. That's what I was trained for. And it's not like I was depressed about it. I was looking forward to it. And so I went into that at University of Rochester. But it again meant really long hours and working almost even weekends, and it was we were kind of possessed, and the goal there, I think, what the sense of purpose was Rochester was viewed as a bit of an outpost of University of Chicago type. And we thought that we were really good and we wanted to outdo University of Chicago. So we were really pumped up and worked hard. Whether we succeeded or not in doing that, I'm not trying to make any comparisons, but collectively we did really well. So at that time, and that's what led to MIT expressing an interest in joining me, and it was by then Rochester was falling on bad times also. Rochester is in University of Rochester is in upstate New York, smaller town. The university, while it's good, but it wasn't in the same league as some of the Ivy League or MIT or Princeton, that type of schools. And so it was falling on bad times. People, dual career reasons, young aspiring faculty, they don't choose Rochester nearly as often as they might choose Chicago or New York or Boston or Stanford, San Francisco Bay Area. So for a number of those reasons, MIT was an extraordinarily attractive place to join, and I came here.
Oh yeah. So so as you said, after University of Rochester, you joined MIT Sloan School and worked in policy. So I'm curious to know, did you always have the ambition to work in academia and influence policy, or did your aspirations evolve over time?
Bit of both. So, we all plan to a certain extent, but not, at least I didn't have 10-year or 20-year vision, and this is what I want to do. I wanted to do well, and as doors opened, as opportunities knocked on my door, I explored those. So I was willing to take on risks. And the first opportunity that came along, I started doing some consulting, which was leveraging some of my research. It's expert witness work. So there is a lot of litigation that takes place, and in those litigation, to assist the court and the judges, parties, they hire experts in economics, finance, and accounting. And having been very successful in research, this was a natural thing for me to do. And so I was doing some of that. But my research was also of considerable interest to those who manage money, asset managers. And so in 2008, I received a call from Barclays Global Investors. Barclays Global Investors, part of Barclays Bank, at that time were world's largest asset managers. They managed $2 trillion at that time. And so when they called and said that, well, the equity portfolio, active equity portfolio, which was several $100 billion, they would like to consider me for global head of equity research. My first reaction was, did you get the right Kothari? I mean, I haven't managed a single dollar in my life. And other than playing around with some Vanguard portfolios of my few $100s of savings. So they said, yeah, we know you. I said, if you know me, well, if you must have done the research. So I'm willing to hop onto the wagon and go for the ride. And so next thing you know, I was in San Francisco, and this was a big portfolio. As I said, I think when I started, it was about $300 billion, and I had 50 PhDs working for me. Research was not that different from what I had been doing. I felt quite comfortable applying that. The practical construction of the portfolio and executing on that was something new. So it was a great opportunity to learn that as well. And we had fun, but my timing was not very good. It was 2008, that was the financial crisis. So jokingly, I say that, well, how do you manage $100 billion? Well, you start with $200 billion and then lose 100. So there was a sense in which that actually happened. But as I said, it was good. And then Barclays was bought out by BlackRock. So at that time, it was pretty clear that the writing was on the wall that they would retain people from BlackRock and let go of the senior team from Barclays Global Investors. And I had very good fallback. I could come back to MIT and I enjoyed it. And I came back and became deputy dean again. So that was I have wonderful memories. I'm grateful for the opportunity. A few dollars also. So that was nice.
So during your tenure as global head of equity research at Barclays from 2008 to 2009, how was it dealing with the aftermath of 2008 financial crisis?
Yes, so I think the basic architecture framework that I had, which is markets are fairly efficient, and you cannot alter the course of history by running around and changing things and buying and selling stocks. I kind of, that was the framework that I believed in, and I didn't sway from that. So people said, you were so calm. Then equanimity is the word that people frequently use to describe me. And so I was fairly steady, and it was pretty clear that we have suffered losses. So there's no point in trying to deny that and trying to put some band-aid and try to hope that it will arrest the wound. No, it's not. It was time to be adult about it and accept it and not panic. And that's what I did. So, yeah, it was good experience. But as I said, it is what it is. But the key was to stay calm, steady, and not make any hasty decisions, not jump to the conclusion and hire and fire people, we had to let go some people, but it was a compassionate exercise. It's not easy to look into someone's eyes and say that, hey, we are going to ask you to leave. But you have to do that. You signed up to work for the organization, so you have to do what is best for the organization, and you try to do it as gently as possible. Also think about how you can help those individuals find other places so that they can land on their feet. You do not mistreat them. They are human beings, and you show empathy, and you do all of those things. But nonetheless, no matter how you describe it, it's a tough thing to do. You hate to do it, but have to do it.
Yeah, indeed. So, do you think there is going to be another recession coming, and your advice on how to deal with it?
Well, no one has a crystal ball. And that said, current conditions, I think we as a nation have been spending beyond our means, and that cannot continue indefinitely. You can, as a nation, as individuals, when we buy a home, one could say that, hey, you're spending beyond your means. But what we are doing is we are borrowing money in the hope that our income would be enough to pay for it over a number of years. That's the whole purpose of the financial sector. But as a nation, you certainly borrow, and you hope that your future income would be enough to pay down that debt and continue living happily. But if you borrow too much, that means your future income may not be enough, and that's when we say that you are borrowing beyond your means or spending beyond your means. And I get the feeling that we are doing some of that, and that's not going to end well. That's not going to end well. And financial markets are notorious, and they all of a sudden wake up someday and they say, "Wait a sec, the picture doesn't look good." It doesn't do that on a day-to-day basis. It's not gradual in that sense. It somehow, at least my 40 years of experience observing these markets has been that from time to time it wakes up and says that we need to reprice, as they say. We have to adjust to the new reality, and so I won't be surprised if that day of reckoning we face that. So how should we inoculate ourselves or insulate ourselves from that? And first and foremost, I say is that make yourself indispensable. So having a good work ethic, developing capabilities that make you attractive in the job place, so that even if some bad things happen, you still would have an ability to earn a decent amount. So whatever you are capable, if you put in a little extra time, you would make yourself a little more attractive to employees. So that is the first thing to do. That is always the case, but especially during these times. Complacency is your worst enemy at this time. Second is to save a little bit for the rainy day, as we say. So having a diversified portfolio and trying to save a little bit is also a good idea. Be nice to your in-laws if they are, they can be helpful. So those kinds of things, to your parents, we have to have some of these relations that we can help each other and get across difficult times. Now that said, I don't want to think that, the future is bleak. No, far from it. It's quite attractive. It is what we make of it. And if we are sensible, we work toward society that is just, and meritocratic, then I think better times are ahead of us. Not bad. There might be some setbacks from time to time, but eventually, I think there's more daylight, more sunshine beyond the horizon.
Wow, those were some great points. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears and would have you talk a little bit about you chairing the World Hindu Congress in Chicago, which kind of reflects on your spiritual inclination to Hindu values. So would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, no. It was a bit of a surprise that I was approached to chair that. And what I said is that religion often is backward looking, in the sense that we glorify what has happened in the past and we call it spiritual, but reality is religion gives us, it's a compass that guides us to some extent. It also gives us some inner peace. And so it's wonderful in that respect. But we have to be forward looking. I said that if we do not advance, maybe other religion will come, or we won't feel good about ourselves. So we have to advance. Hindu religion, be it issues of women, all religions have been not very kind to women. And I think, so my message was that we have to advance. We cannot be frozen in the past and just follow the religious practices as ritual and go through the motions of that. But we have to be an active mind and be willing to embrace the changing world and do the right thing. So that was my message. And that's what I thought, that having that bully pulpit would help me deliver that message, that otherwise me sitting in this office is not going to give me that opportunity. So that's what propelled me to accept that. And in Chicago, that's what I did in my opening remarks. It was very different. It was also a big tent, people with very strong views, and some with economic views, and some with very forward-looking views. So it was a melting pot of people with very different perspectives. There was a slight political angle to it also, because they are RSS and they were big supporters of World Hindu Congress, and they are supportive of BJP also. I don't have very strong in India, I mean, that political inclination or connection, but I'm not opposed to those things either. I want to make sure that our message is peaceful. Our message is, as I said, forward-looking. It is of reforms rather than being frozen in the past. And the organizers, they said, yeah, I mean, there's no conditions, they are not muzzling my mouth or thinking in terms of what I can say or cannot say. And under those conditions, I was honored. I felt privileged that I could accept that position and deliver that message.
Yeah, I strongly think you had a very powerful and inspiring message. Okay, so in 2020, you were honored with prestigious Padma Shree, the 4th highest civilian award in India. So how did receiving such a significant accolade impact you? Were you expecting this, or did it come as a surprise?
It was largely a surprise. I mean, you get the inkling a few days ahead of time, but not much more than that. So it's only a question of when the surprise. It was a humbling experience. I wish my parents were alive to see that. It seemed like on behalf of a lot of people. I was accepting it. But it obviously one of the most exciting moments in my life.
Yeah, we are all very proud of your achievements.
Thank you.
But for the next section, I will hand it over.
For the next segment, we will want to get into a little bit of current affairs. So the most relevant and recent topics is the advancements in AI.
Right.
So in terms of your insights in terms of finance and economics, I wanted to get your what would be the potential economic impact of these AI advancements? There have been reports that AI have projected to contribute significantly in the GDP growth of the India and the world. And then how do you perceive these figures, or like the broader implications of AI on these things?
Right. I have personally slightly mixed feelings about it, in the sense that I think in the long run, it is going to enhance our productivity and it is going to benefit. I'm already seeing many applications where they are immensely advancing the progress, the productivity. But in the short run, I wonder if there might be some pain. There are millions of Indians are employed in the IT sector, and I have a feeling that some of those relatively low-end jobs, AI might replace them. So there is a short-term pain. It's difficult to retrain people at any stage in life. Okay, I mean, the training is age 20, 25, maybe 30, that's right. But once people get 35, 40, 50 years, it is difficult to change profession or retrain or do something dramatically different. So if some of their skill set is going to be replaced by AI, I think there would be a short-term pain. It's true. You look at auditing profession. I'm somewhat more familiar with that. Already, some of the automation has made a difference in terms of how many auditors are needed to do. AI and this progress that we are making will make it even worse for that. So I think long run, I think this is going to be an enormous benefit, but in the short term, I worry a little bit about the consequences.
Yeah. So in terms of what you just said, like especially with public policies drafting or creating, how much of it do you think is AI can take over, or there would be a need for human intelligence as well, right? So where would that lie?
So there's no question. I mean, to me, it seems AI is not going to replace human beings. But that said, there are many jobs where instead of requiring 10 human beings, now only 6 might be needed. So that is the difference. Now, I have gone through myself, I mean, many technological innovations. One might say that, well, looking at those, that didn't happen. Unemployment is still low. So there are many who think that AI is going to be similarly helpful and not reduce employment. I'm a slightly different view that to me, there might be some short-term pain. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, we all hope. But I think it comes to the point of upskilling one's abilities and trying to always get the next thing to do. So in recognizing the importance of economic growth and development, how can we effectively leverage policy mechanisms to ensure creation of sustainable environment?
I think the best remedy for sustainable environment is prosperity. Because you look around in the US, now you have been in the US for many years. Do you find air particularly bad? Do you find problems of any? And that's true in Western Europe also. Same thing. So economically prosperous, Korea and South Korea and Japan, same thing. Economic prosperity brings with it, people don't have tolerance for pollution. People don't have tolerance for filthy places around them. So I think the best solution is prosperity and technological innovation. For example, there are many startups now and industries that are working toward green energy. These are only rich people can afford to innovate and do that technological breakthroughs. Perhaps some states, larger places can also do that. I'm not saying the chances are zero, but more likely that those innovations will take place. And those innovations are going to ultimately solve problems like climate risk. Just as a matter of, not to throw too many statistics, but the amount of CO2 emission that used to take place in the US in 1970, that hasn't changed in 2022. So 52 years and US still emits the same amount of carbon dioxide. One can say that that is a lot that they emit. But during this time period, economic output has grown about 30 times. But CO2 output has remained the same. It's all because of technology. So the solution in the long run, I think, is technology. And that's what for sustainable development. Now, in the short run, countries like India or China might ask for the West to help them, and there are all those arguments. But we will see some help or something, some virtue signaling also. But reality is ultimately the change will come about when technology improves and economies in the less developed places goes developed.
Okay. So my next question is a little switching gears. What do you think about the phenomenon of brain drain in India?
There's a famous statement by John Kennedy: ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Much as I admire John Kennedy, I think on this particular economic point, there are 190 nations around the world. Each is competing for brain. So I think it's the nation that have to ask, what can they do for people so that people would voluntarily stay. So brain drain from India, all three of us are sitting here in the US, but we are product of Indian education, at least for undergrad and some grad education also. The reason is the economic chasm. The opportunities that US offers are simply not there. So I think it's very difficult to restrain. Labor or human capital is one of the most mobile capitals. So no nation is going to be able to erect boundaries, and especially in this day and age when you can do remote work, it's even more difficult to erect those boundaries. So I think what India has to come to grips with is that economic advancement and greater opportunities for people, not restraining them with regulation or some other constraints, that is going to help reduce the brain drain. At least, it may not become that drain may not become a trickle overnight, but if you want to move in that direction, the path is to have greater freedom, not less freedom or restriction.
Okay. Yeah. So this question is my personal favorite.
Okay.
So, given your extensive expertise and contributions to the area of finance, policy, economics, do you envision a possibility of returning to India in the future, maybe to engage with the academic institutions? I strongly believe that your insights and guidance would be invaluable to the next generation of scholars and students. Yeah.
I appreciate saying that. Thank you for the kind words. I'm 65. So reality is, and I have now deep roots over here. So chances are slim. I had an opportunity, or at least, some policy work in the government, and I was willing to do that. Maybe if something comes along again, I would be happy to, but it takes two to tango, and I'm saying that I always had a soft corner, and I have tried, and I will continue to strive and be good enough to be wanted there, but somehow policymakers haven't felt the need, and that's perfectly fine. I'm at peace with that.
Sounds good. So, in light of your extensive experience in both policy making and career development, we are eager to hear your advice for today's youth on navigating their career paths and cultivating an interest in policy.
Whether they do in policy or not, I don't care. I think excelling in whatever field might be acting, and that's fine. So be the leader in the field that excites you. That is number one. In terms of what they should do, well, I think a little more risk-taking. And especially, I can say this about Indians. My perception is, I think, we are generally a little less risk-taking. So, be a fortune favors the brave, that kind of. So, not be reckless, but take some calculated risks. Hard work will always pay. Being inquisitive, trying to lifelong learning type. And learning doesn't mean books or academics, but whatever field it is, that trying to have that curiosity, have that desire to do a little bit better. And I haven't met a single successful person who is not hard working. So if you want to be successful, again, it's a matter of choice or what goals you want to set. But if you want to be successful, you have to work hard. And there is no alternative. At least I haven't come up with an alternative. So that's my advice: to a little more risk-taking, a little more thirst for knowledge, and a little more hard work. That combination the group is many from our institutions or others, they are extraordinarily talented. So sky is the limit for all of them.
Certainly. So, given your remarkable career and insights, what can we anticipate in terms of your future endeavors?
I think maybe I aspire to have another stint in DC, but who knows whether that happens or not. Otherwise, I think I want to drink a little more wine and play a little more golf. So,
okay, it's time that we conclude our conversation. Thank you so much. I hope our listeners found it as enriching as we did. So, as we conclude, is there any wisdom or final thoughts you would like to impart to our audience, considering your unique perspective and wealth of experience?
Just enjoy life, work hard, enjoy life, be curious. I think the world is wonderfully well, or especially our Bitcoins do phenomenally well. They don't need my advice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we actually thought of this rapid fire sort of thing. Just quick question and answers if you're okay with it.
I'm not very quick, but we will try.
No, yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to give the introduction?
Okay. Yeah. Now we are going to switch gears for last 5 minutes. We would like to dive into a rapid fire round of questions. This segment is designed to provide quick, off the cuff insights in your preferences or experiences. It's all good fun. There's no right or wrong answers. So yeah.
I hope so.
Okay, so your first question is: if you could enact one fictional law from a movie or book in real life, what would that be?
Cryptocurrency, I would like to, I think we are overly paternalistic and want to disallow that. Or laws in India make exchange rates flexible so that people can move currency from anywhere.
Yeah, interesting.
If you could have a dinner party with 3 historical figures, dead or alive, who would you invite and what would you be discussing?
They would all be there. The 3 individuals, it would be Reagan, Winston Churchill, and Gandhi. So those 3. And I think it would be fascinating to see Reagan's reactions to, because Churchill and Gandhi predated Reagan, but he was a champion of freedom, just as Gandhi and Winston Churchill were also. They all have skeletons, I know, but I think they would be hugely interesting to get a perspective of how does Reagan see the contributions, and because World War II and freedom movement, Gandhi and Churchill did a whole lot, and it would be nice to hear the take that Reagan has.
Interesting.
Okay, so what's the most bizarre or amusing feedback or criticism you have received about one of your research papers or policy proposals, and how did you respond to it?
Well, one of the early papers that I wrote, which has become, my reputation got cemented because of that paper, but the first review of that was horrendously bad. It was depressingly bad. But my usual, maybe because I'm slow or whatever, but didn't react much to it and let it simmer for a little while and then move on to other things and worked on the paper, no matter we disagreed with some of the criticism, but still tried to address it, and lo and behold, that paper has been hugely successful. So my advice to all the authors, since you asked about research and publishing, is to sleep on it for a couple of days at least and not react instantaneously. Being slow has its advantages.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice.
Who is your favorite professor at BITS or Endeavours?
Oh, my advisor, Dan Collins, I thought was extraordinarily good. But there were many great professors at Pilani as well as at Ahmedabad and Iowa. So Chima, Professor Chima, SS Chima was math and calculus he was teaching, and I thought he was gentle. He was masterful, and in a very steady fashion he explained things. So And that's just one example of an outstanding instructor.
Okay, one last fun question for you. Wine, beer, tea, or coffee person?
Wine.
Nice.
I think we already
Yeah.
got that answer from this previous conversation. But yeah, thank you so much for the fun rapid fire session.
Thank you, Hanusha. Thank you, Nivya. Really appreciate. You guys are just as fun as anything. So that was great. Thank you.
Okay, so as we conclude today's episode, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Professor Kothari for gracing us with his presence. Your contributions to the field of economics and finance are nothing short of extraordinary, and it's been a privilege to have you as part of this series. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.